Let everything that has breath praise the law. Praise ye the Lord. Without exception, I believe everyone has read or heard the delightful story of Aladdin and his magic lamp. How a poor boy has stumbled upon a little genie that led him to a dusty old lamp. It was a magic lamp, and when he rubbed it briskly, a little man appeared out of a cloud before him and asked to fulfill his wishes. We as children have always dreamed of fairies and of beautiful things in life that we wished we might have, yet our dreams remain as such because we could do nothing about them. In truth, we may have not believed in fairies, but we know there's a principle equivalent to the magic lamp. No, it's not something material that we can carry about and rub at will to do our bidding. It is an understanding which enables us to use the law more clearly. And in using it, we stimulate our good and bring about much for our pleasure and happiness that seems like magic or miracles. The understanding is the act of praising God, the law, for that which we desire, and invariably fulfilling of that desire is speeded up to almost magic proportions. The method is, of course, not new. It has been used throughout the Bible from the beginning to end. Praise has ever been a common method used to employ the attention, favor, and blessing of God, however one believed in it. In early history, we learned that people would bring sacrifices to place them on an altar to gain favor with Jehovah. Following this act, they would render their praise in song and ceremony, believing that by so doing, they would be favored and their prayers would be granted. Read the Song of Moses and note its structure. Read the fall of Jericho and note the process used by the people who marched around the city walls until they crumbled and fell and who became conquerors. Read the last Psalm of David, and in so doing, remember that it's been used by the Hebrews for ages and has proven most effective throughout the centuries. The singing of songs or blowing of trumpets does not bring the results you pray for, nor do you suddenly gain favor with God because of it. The effect of your efforts does not influence God in any sense, but it does influence you. It enables you to be lifted up and unconsciously touch the law and gain its blessings. What has been an unconscious act or an accidental method can become known fact and regular means of stimulating for good. If one learns the simple method of praise, that alone will stimulate the increase of his good. Jesus once said, if one has faith the grain of a mustard seed, he can move mountains. If one can realize the power of praise, he can do the same. For praise is complementary to faith, whereas faith is wisdom and understanding. Praise is the application of that understanding. Faith is the boiler that holds the substance of power, whereas praise is the fuel that generates the power into an active force. If you must constantly watch your boiler and care especially for the fuel that charges it in order to get the most out of it, then the fuel is a very important part of the machinery. In like manner, faith without praise is but a cold boiler, an inert mass of machinery. It may be nice to look at or talk about, but of no value more than until it is put in motion and produces heat. Praise is a stimulant of mind. It quickens prayer. It magnetizes all the good around you. It transforms the good into usable, visible substance. A woman was crying bitterly and praying tearfully to God for her release. The master, hearing her, silenced her and said, is God a God of tears, grief, and anguish and pain? Ah, no, God is the giver of joy and peace and happiness and love. You want peace and joy, yet you pray to your Father with tears. If you want black, do you ask for white? If you ask for a fish, do you expect a serpent? If you ask for bread, do you expect a stone? You can only get what you expect, for the unchanging law is ever working to supply you. Prayer should not be one of supplication, pleading, begging, entreating a sad state. It should be one of claiming, declaring, decreeing, praising, and joyfulness and thanksgiving. Praise is an avenue of prayer through which the spirit law expresses itself. Praise is the broad highway, while all other forms are the feeding arteries. Through this inherent law, when man praises, he opens himself upward to God. He lifts his consciousness to a higher realm and becomes a greater channel to receive the good that is ever waiting to come to him. Hi, sweetheart. Praise opens a little door in his mind that enables him to draw closer to God and to be attuned to the divine forces within and about. Praise is the shortest route to complete any demonstration and the quickest way to enjoy effectual prayer. Praise expands and opens the mind upward, while its opposite, condemnation, contracts and restricts. The whole creation responds to praise and is glad. You may have noted how a trainer, after each performance of its charge, would give them a satisfaction pat or a morsel of food. That man was wise in using the law and bringing out the best work from his charges and thereby giving the best performance. You may have noticed how children would glow with gladness and joy when they receive commendation and praise. Those who have trouble with their servants or helpers can learn much by using this method and will find great difference in the quality and quantity of the work produced. You have experienced at some time, I'm sure, this law in your affairs. Have you ever had someone to condemn or criticize your efforts when you were trying to please? Did you not feel the folding up within yourself? Perhaps you even felt like quitting the job and letting someone else worry about it. Least of all, such an experience suppressed your interest and zeal, and you did not desire to do better. That is how one reacts when the law is reversed. Whereas when someone praises you with efforts, you feel like expanding and doing better, trying harder and being more perfect. Your interest becomes greater because of the pleasure. And with your happiness, you bring happiness into your work and all around you. It is well known fact that even plant life is responsive to praise. For I have seen flowers brought to life. What do you think? Do you like praise? Well, don't step on me, please. I mean, good job not stepping on me. I mean, good job keeping your feet where they belong. When we are praised or praise ourselves, there is a physical response within our bodies, and doctors tell us that the cells in our bodies respond to this law. There is a physical they seem to know and to expand in strength and capacity, or even intelligence. Of course, we know that it is the mind working through every cell that causes this expansion. There is an invisible ether upon which all thoughts act, as water expands into power when it's heated and retards into solid when it's chilled. The law of spirit is reflected in the law of physics. Though we may not sense it or fully understand it, our thoughts are moving continually in this invisible ether, and they are either increasing or diminishing in power and in intelligence. When we praise the richness and opulence of God, the law, our thoughts are greatly increased in the mental atmosphere. This increase affects our being, in that it reflects in everything our mind and hands may touch. If we are contracting our thoughts through fear, criticism, and complaint, we reflect that contraction and our results are delayed and frozen. It has been proven that failing businesses can be praised into success. Supposed lost friends have returned to their affections when the law of praise was used. One man told me, while out driving, he heard a clicking noise develop in the rear of his car. He talked to his machine and praised it to get him home safely and without delay. He drove some 30 miles and rolled into the driveway safely. When he tried to move the car further, he discovered a broken axle. A woman wrote me stating that she was very weary looking at an old carpet that had seen better days and had given her good service. She tried the praise method and began to speak kindly to the old rug, and within a few days she had word that a brand new carpet was on the way from Colorado. Better still, though, praise is good for the other person and things. It is our salvation too. Praise changes our observation, our whole outlook on life. In the past, we were in the habit of seeing our weaknesses and failings as well as our shortcomings of others, but now we see differently. We look for the accomplishments, the good, and the beauty that is worthy of our praise. This, in turn, has a dual effect. It enriches our human self, and we are able to radiate praise, joy, courage, and happiness to all who are affected by our influence. It affects our inner self in such a way that our memory begins to retain all praiseworthy thoughts sent to it. This sets up a new system of thinking, and gradually the old thoughts that were destroying become absorbed in the new ones. Thus it becomes habitual to think praises, and our life takes on a likeness of all good that is worth praise. Praise with the heart is far more vital and effectual than praise with the head or praise from the lips. Praise does not flatter nor influence God as it does some humans who are turned by superficial praise and applause. Praise is not intended for God, it's intended for man, and is an aid to enable man to lift himself upwards to become attuned to the law of God. It raises his state of consciousness that he may become more receptive to the good about him and lifts him above the lack. Praise raises man's vibration, speeds up his activity, stimulates his faith, and contacts a higher realm of thought. We copy from the Israelites a practice that falls annually. Each year we have a Thanksgiving service, and many think that it is to express our gratitude for the past year. If you think a moment, you can readily see that this is the reversal of law of praise, for such service should not be in review, but in preview. That is, a true thanksgiving should be the expression of our faith, not in the past, but in the present and future to come. Many of us have gotten into a rut. We want our pay in advance. We offer praise after our barns are filled. If it's all going well, we're willing to pause and give thanks for the good fortune. Anyone can be grateful with a gift already at hand. If conditions are bad, or harvest is lean, or trouble besets us, we're apt to forget to praise, and we storm at our failures and often blame God for his neglect. When one can sing praises in the face of adversity, the adversity will soon disappear. That is not a promise, that is a law. Learn to render praise and be thankful for the good at hand, and you will have found the magic lamp of spirit. This attitude of mind not only brings forth our desire, but it also generates our confidence, strength, gives faith a boost, and builds up an assurance for the things to come. Thus, to be able to praise when things appear darkest will invariably force the sunshine through. Our degree of faith in the law and God is measured before we receive, not afterwards. It is to that degree of faith that determines what we shall be capable of receiving. This is what Jesus knew when he said, "Whatever you desire when you pray, believe you receive it, and you will have it." Praise is the belief in action, and that action is in the present tense. It is in the now. Samples of his work show us how he approached his problem. In one case, he turned to the patient and said, "Do you believe?" To another, he questioned, "Do you perceive?" In one of his most trying and testing moments, going to the tomb where his beloved friend Lazarus lay dead, we see his approach no different. He stood apart. "Father, I thank you that you heard me." What could one be thankful for at a time like that? But the master knew he was grateful for the answer to his prayer, that Lazarus would be restored to life. And directly he called out, "Lazarus, come forth." And the book reads that Lazarus stirred in his grave clothes and returned to his body. At another time, 10 lepers called to the master asking to be healed. He directed them to show themselves to the priests. Later, one of them came back expressing gratitude to Jesus for having been cleansed. And Jesus turned and said, "Where were there not 10 cleansed? But where are the 9? To the one who touched the law, he said, 'Arise, go thy way, thy faith has made you whole.'" 1 out of 10 showed his willingness to return with a grateful heart. He received a permanent healing. Many students fail to repeat their demonstrations because they take too much for granted, or they become careless with the law after having enjoyed some blessings. One of the first requisites of the law is that we keep ever an attitude of praise and thanksgiving. If we hope to receive God's outpouring of good, we must keep ourselves receptive, and praise is one of the simplest means known to accomplish this. Be ever grateful for the very least of things, and the very most will come. We must keep our thoughts uplifted always, and praise is the mean to do this. If there is any ingratitude lurking in your mind and heart, begin at once to learn the Psalm of David. Praise the law. Praise the Lord. As we attune our thoughts to the law of God, that law serves us in proportion. This is the late Russell Cronwell of the Philadelphia Baptist Temple. Must have clearly understood when he called his people to attend a service of praise and song and prayer. Anyone in his church who wished prayers for their problems was urged to come and bring his offerings, leaving his name and stating his need. One man of meager means came and asked that his daughter's name be given. She is a patient at a mental hospital and had to be put away for this reason. The week following the praise service, he called to see his daughter in the hospital and was amazed to have her brought down to him and pronounced healed. A woman brought her jewels and placed them on the altar. She was afflicted with physical conditions and suffered painfully. She was unable to walk without the aid of crutches. Then, leaving the church after the service, she tripped and fell on the steps. She was lifted to her feet and realized she was healed. Another woman, a widow, came with her mite and asked that she might keep her home, as it was mortgaged and the payments long past due. She went home, but shortly after, it seemed as things were surely going against her. A leak broke out on a water pipe, and she was forced to call in a plumber to repair it. How she was ever going to pay him, only the Lord would know. When the plumber tore up the floorboards to repair the leak, he uncovered a can of money that her husband had hidden away. And the amount was more than enough to pay the mortgage and the plumber. These happenings are all true and can be repeated by anyone who will fulfill the law as his believing minister has done. The law cannot fail us when we do not fail it. Learn to turn the law of praise upon anything that you are praying for, and you will see action. Praise is faith in action. Praise is faith in action. A faithful law, faithfully observed, will ever reward generously the observer. The law of praise will lift you from sickness to health. It will raise you from ignorance to intelligence, from poverty to affluence, from weakness to strength, from fear to courage. In fact, the law of praise will promote you in all things and in all ways. Begin using the law now. You haven't much to begin with, you say. Well, neither did Jesus when he had some 5,000 hungry souls to feed. He had only 5 loaves and a few fishes. Yet he did something with them. He started action by praising the little at hand and passing it out. And you know the story. And the master said that what he did, we can do. There is no exception to this law. How can it be done? When you learn to take what you have and build upon it, not with scorn and condemnation, but with praise and gratitude. You are working the law, and the law will give you increase. Praise God. The good is everywhere. This has been read by Tammy Magnuson, the book Working with the Law by Raymond Hollywell. Chapter, Law of Increase.